Hello, my stamping friends. Thank you for finding me here at stampwithjuliebaum.com. Today is May 19th, 2021, and I'm going to review the 3 projects that we made at Stamp Club last week. So we made 2 cards and a little box project. We're going to start with this first card, which happens to be a slimline card. We're doing quite a few slimline card designs this year as they're kind of trendy, quite popular. And so let's just jump in and get started. This first card, the slimline, starts with a piece of soft succulent cardstock. And this piece measures 8.5 by 7 and is scored down the middle at 3.5. So this creates our card base. This soft succulent color is a beautiful soft green. It's one of the new in colors that was just launched. And I've been using this color and the other color we're going to feature on this card, the Evening Evergreen, quite a bit. The two are lovely together. Of course, they can be used separately too, but this is the direction we're headed right now. So this cardstock is soft succulent, and I'm going to start with the Evening Evergreen ink pad. The stamps that we're going to use today for this card are from a new bundle called Flowers of Friendship. So it's the stamp set bundled with this adorable flowers and leaves punch. So for starters, I'm going to use this long stamp with these little flowers on here. We're just going to create a border on our background piece. So starting with Evening Evergreen, and at the bottom corner here, I'm just going to stamp along the edge, pick up some more ink, and I'm just kind of eyeballing so that I can get a rather even row here of flowers. I kind of want my pattern to be as even as possible, but I'm not doing any measuring or anything. Now what's going to happen here is I'm going to fall off the edge of the paper, which is fine. But now when I go to turn, see at one point here we're going to reach for some scratch paper. I think we're still okay. Let's go ahead and turn this direction and get a row in here. We'll finish this direction. So again, this is just straight from the Evening Evergreen ink pad, stamping onto soft succulent cardstock. All right, so this is where I'm going to grab some scratch paper, because as I'm going to fit this last row in here, I don't want to have a problem with overlapping the images. So I'm just going to take a piece of copy paper, just some scratch paper, and just lay it over that last flower there so I don't get a muddled look if I happen to stamp right in that same area. A post-it here would work, but I just grabbed a scrap paper, so let's just line that up and see how we do. All right. Let's move on from our background and grab this piece, which is basic white. This piece is cut down a little bit smaller to fit on our card base, so it measures 8 by 3. And on this piece, we're going to just put a simple little background pattern and also our sentiment on this page. So I'm going to grab my black ink pad, and the words that I've chosen for this card say, "Many thanks from all of us." Again, it's part of the Flowers of Friendship stamp set. I really do like the font that was selected for this stamp set. And just all 4 greetings are very nice. So just a little reminder, when you're going to mount your cling stamps, a good way to help try to get things straight is to use your grid paper. Remember, your grid paper is not just a placemat for stamping off or for protecting your table surface, but it's also a tool that you're going to use. So I can lay my stamp onto my grid paper using the lines to kind of make sure that it's straight, then come in with my block and pick it up. Again, just going for as straight as possible. Okay, with my Memento black ink, I'm going to pick up some ink. This is a new stamp set, and I recommend that when you do have a new stamp set, that you play with it a little bit on your scratch paper just to get comfortable. Sometimes you might find that you're going to catch an edge and you might need to trim your stamp down a little bit. Sometimes it just takes a few stamps. That one looks better. A few stamps just to kind of get the ink and the rubber stamp all working together. And so this is looking fine. So I'm going to move on to my card front. And let's put those words just kind of down here in the bottom right. Not really in the corner, but the bottom right section. Give that ink a chance to soak in. All right, so there we've got our greeting. Now I'm going to take the larger of the two flowers that are in Flowers of Friendship and reach for my soft succulent ink pad. And this time I'm just going to do that background pattern that I mentioned, kind of all over it. And I am going to stamp off so that I get a lighter color. Here's soft succulent right from the ink pad. And I'm going to go ahead and use that on my background so I get a lighter version. So stamp off and onto my card, stamping off each time. This is also where your background paper or your grid paper comes in handy, because you want to be stamping, ooh, did I stamp off already? Yes. You want to be stamping off the edges so that the paper looks nice and full, so you can see that your extra ink is going onto your grid paper. Stamping off each time. Also rotating my stamp or the paper a little bit each time so you kind of get a different part of the flower. All right, like so. So we have our card base that's been stamped. We have the focal part of our card front that's been stamped. And now, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to set those aside for a moment and pull the envelope in, because I'm using the same flower stamp and the same colors. And let's go ahead and stamp our envelope. Now this is a slimline envelope. I have found some good ones at a really good price on Amazon. I can put that information in the link below of this video. So I'm just going to take this and let's do one flower right here on the flap. All right, and then all over the flower, I'm going to do that same background print, kind of following this idea. But I'm going to use Soft Succulent, full strength. And then I'm going to go back and use some of the Evening Evergreen. So we've got kind of the two-tone greens going on here on our envelope. All right. Stamp some of that off. Okay. And now with Evening Evergreen, just go back and fill in some of those areas. All right, if you've stamped with me for any time at all, you know that I like to remind you, no naked envelopes. If you've gone to such care and such trouble and time to hand stamp a card, you really ought to decorate your envelope up a little bit too. Okay, so we'll set the envelope aside and come back and finish the front of our card so we can put this piece together. Now what I've done to just make this a little bit speedier this morning is done some of my punching ahead of time. So let me show you those pieces. I've got the Flowers and Leaves punch that's part of the bundle. And a nice, easy way to do this is to just grab your scraps. We're going to be using Polished Pink, which is one of the new in colors, also Fresh Freesia, and then I've also got flowers punched out of Pale Papaya. So I have them all pre-punched, but I'll just quickly give you a couple little hints so you can just drop your cardstock down. Again, I'm just aiming for the flowers. And so you're going to have some extra pieces pop out, but that's okay. All right, so that's how I got my flowers punched out. And then it's fantastic when you're going to punch your leaves because you can use even a tiny little scrap. You can see this is a well-used piece of evening evergreen cardstock. I've been doing some other stamping and punching with other sets and dies, but even this little edge right here is plenty of space for me to get one of the leaves that I'm going to need. So it's a great way to use your scraps, and you don't have to always have a piece of paper that fills this whole area. You just have enough to put in there. You just need enough to put in there and get your little leaf to fit. So I could even fit a small one right here. All right, so I've got all of those pre-punched ahead of time, and now let's build our card front. So I'm taking 2 of the polished pink flowers, one of the larger and one of the smaller ones. I am going to connect those together with a little bit of liquid adhesive. So let me grab my silicone mat here. All right, so just a little dab on the larger flower. Turn the smaller flower at the other angle. We've got that one. Let's do the same with fresh freesia. A little dab of liquid glue goes a long, long way. All right, so there we've got our fresh freesia flower built, and then pale papaya. I have to tell you, the pale papaya, when I first saw the 5 new in colors, was kind of my least favorite. It's just a soft peachy color. I wasn't sure about it. And I am telling you that the more I'm using it, the more and more I am falling in love with it. And it looks so pretty with these other colors. It also looks really good with Calypso Coral. I'm doing some other projects that I will film later, but the pale papaya looks beautiful with Calypso Coral. All right, then another thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and attach my leaves. So what I did is I did 3 large leaves in the evening evergreen and 3 small leaves in the soft succulent. So it's kind of easier to go ahead and just put those all together, do all my gluing at once. So I'm going to put a little dab here on the back of my flower and add one of my leaves. And of course I've done this a time or two, so I kind of already know where I want them, but otherwise you can eyeball it before you go adding your glue. I'll turn this over and let's just take a peek, make sure it's where we want it before we attach it really good. Okay, that one's fine. All right, so there's pale papaya. Let's add our leaves to this one. I think I'll add soft succulent, the small leaf first. Again, a little bit of liquid glue goes a long way. You could totally use your glue dots here. That would be great as well. Here's the larger of the 2 flowers. I'll just tuck, or 2 leaves, sorry about that. Tuck that behind there. All right, so there's fresh freesia finished. And one final time for polished pink. 1 leaf and 2 leaves. It's very nice with your liquid glue. It doesn't grab on and get super, super stuck right away. So if you need to remove something and reposition it, you have just a moment or so to do that before it really holds well. Okay, so I have my 3 flowers done. I want to put a little accent on those, and so I am pulling in the Stampin' Up markers that are also in the in colors. Now, I am totally in love with our Stampin' blends, and I use those a lot of the time. But I just need some little accents on here, and there's not really any reason to use the blends. So these markers are going to work just fine. So I'm going to grab the same 3 colors as my flowers. You know, when I usually get the new in colors each year when they're introduced, I just get it all. That way, when you need a piece, you already have it and you're not saying, oh, I wish I had bought the markers, or I wish I had bought a re-inker. So if you get your ink pads, the re-inkers, some of the cardstock, the markers, maybe the Stampin' Blends also, then you're really set for your creative sessions. So I'm just going to take my marker and just put a couple little lines. Very freestyle, very freehand. All right, there's Pale Papaya. You could use the brush marker like I'm doing, or you could use the thinner side if that makes you feel more comfortable, or sometimes you feel like you have a little more control with the thin side. Those looked a little uniform instead of freehand. All right, and then on this one, I think I'll do this one with 2 little marks down the center. Mix it up a little bit. Not all flowers are the same. Oh, that one looks like it needs another. Okay, well, there you go. All right, and then let's put a little bit of bling on here. So let me grab some rhinestones. I know they're here somewhere. And whatever your normal process is, you can either take your pick tool with the spatula or the piercing end. If you have the retired piercing tool, a lot of us are used to using that, whichever method you like, but scoop under, grab your rhinestone and get it in place. There we go, right in the center of the flower. This is kind of, there's about 4 sizes of rhinestone. That one's a little bit smaller. Let's see what one that's a little larger looks like on this one. I kind of like that. All right, so to keep it mixed up, I'll do 2 small and 1 medium. There's still this larger size that we're not going to use today on this project. And there we go. All right, so we're in the home stretch now of this card. I'm going to grab some Stampin' Dimensionals. Those are little ones. Here's the normal. Either size would work. I'm going to go for the regular size Stampin' Dimensional. Put 1 on the back of each of my flowers. All right, let's get rid of those backings. Okay, now we're ready to put these in place. You can kind of eyeball it to whatever looks good to you. I'm going to do 1. See, I'm going to kind of put my leaves where the background flowers are not. So I'll try 1 right there. And I'm not going to totally squish it down really hard yet. I want to get my placement first. Yep, I like the pink, the polished pink one there. And let's put Pale Papaya there. And then once you think you're pretty happy with it, you can give it a nice press. All right, a little bit of liquid glue on the back of this. And again, a little goes a long way. Make sure you have some near the edges, and then some in the middle. Now, I'm going over the bumps of my rhinestones. Obviously, I could have mounted this onto the card base first and added the rhinestones last, but it didn't really hurt anything. Okay, and then I'm just going to kind of line this up, eyeballing it so it's somewhat centered, and lay it in place. So the only thing that I am not thrilled about was my 1 corner there. Let me bring in the one that we actually made at Club, which is a little bit better. Had I not probably been rushing while I'm trying to film, you could get that lined up a little bit better at home too. So here's the finished card. We're going to go ahead and add our little knot like on this one. So I have a piece of the Fresh Freesia ribbon. It's really a lovely ribbon. It comes in all 5 colors and it's sheer down the middle. This piece happens to be just about 5 inches long, and I'm going to tie it in a simple knot like so. And then just using a glue dot, attach it to the front of the card. All right, so there's my glue dot. Let's put it right about there. And then I'm going to trim my tails. Trim the tail of the ribbon. That was not quite as clean as I like. There, that one was a little bit better. And there we have our adorable Flowers of Friendship slimline card with a matching envelope. Now, I did not put a white panel on the inside. The soft succulent cardstock is pretty light. You could totally just write on this. Of course, if you prefer the white panel, you could put a basic white piece on the inside. But since there's nothing on the inside, I do feel like it looks a bit naked. So I'm just going to grab soft succulent and let's just pop a couple of flowers down here in the corner. Make sure that's got evening evergreen off of it. All right, so maybe just a couple of those, just to dress up the inside. All right, there's our slimline card. Let's move on to the second project that we made at Stamp Club. And this is another card. It's actually called an easel card. You'll see how it stands up. It folds flat so it can be mailed quite easily, but then it's gonna stand up. This is what the card, finished card, looks like. And this particular card is made with Dragonfly Garden stamp set, and there's a coordinating punch to this. Then on the inside, you'll see a little bit of designer paper and our words. And then what's really cool about this is it has this fold in the front. So you just pop that up and it can sit like that once it's been received by the recipient. I love it. You can do all kinds of things with this easel card. This part right here could be like I've done, and I'm going to show you how to do the words on a little piece that's popped up. This could be an image. It could certainly be a flower or other image. All you need is a little piece here that's popped up with dimensionals that will hold your easel card up like so. So let's make this one. I'm starting with some Misty Moonlight cardstock, and this is a traditional size, so this is starting at 8.5 by 5.5. I've scored it down the middle for the center fold. That's at 4 1/4. And then it's also scored a second time. This is the front of the card. That is scored at 2 1/8. That becomes our little fold here so that the easel card can sit up. All right, so we have a score line at 4 1/4 and also at 2 1/8. I have some designer paper from the Dandy Garden DSP. This was a 6x6 pack. It is retired now, but you could use any little patterned background. So it's not super important that you use the same paper, obviously. So this is my DSP, and I'm going to put it on a piece of the white cardstock. Oh, let me tell you the dimensions of this, okay? So your little piece of DSP for matting is 3 by 4. And I'm putting it on a piece of basic white that is just a tiny bit larger. And it is 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. All right, so there we have that. Now I have a piece of basic white. The piece I'm using, I know it looks like a scrap, but it actually is going to be just the right size for our project. So it measures 2 3/4 inches square. That's what this one is. And I will start with, where's my stamps? Oh, here we go. Okay, let me show you the stamp set and the punch. This is Dragonfly Garden. Even though the Dandy Garden designer paper retired, Dragonfly Garden is still in the 2021-2022 annual catalog. And it has a coordinating punch that has the large and the small dragonfly. Super cute. All right, so we're going to be using this stamp image. We're going to use the butterflies, the thank you for your kindness, and also for a true friend. All right, since my punch is right here, let's go ahead and unlock it. I'm going to punch 3 of the small dragonflies. So this one is Calypso Coral. And this one is Bumblebee. And then we'll punch one out of Misty Moonlight. So Misty Moonlight and Bumblebee are also in colors. They were introduced last year. So they are now the seniors of the class. Our 5 new colors are the juniors. All right, we've got our 3 dragonflies punched there. And I'm reaching for this stamp. Now, I grabbed a smaller block. Obviously, it doesn't completely fit on there, but I know that I'm only stamping the top part of this, so it's fine. If I was going to stamp the whole image, I would grab a larger block, but this is going to work out just fine. So sometimes it's about grabbing what you need in the moment. Okay, and I can tell that my black ink pad is a little bit darker on one side than the other, so I'm going to move that around a little bit. Okay, so I only need the top portion of this image, and it's going to go sort of to the right side of this. So let's just lay that down right there. All right, great. Then we'll take the stamp that says "For a True Friend." And I know from using this one, because I've had this set for a while, that I tend to stamp this one a little bit crooked. So I am going to bring in some of that scratch paper and practice a time or two. I want to see what happens if I try to do it straight, if I need to do any adjusting. I don't like how my black ink pad is behaving. Let me turn it. It probably needs to be re-inked. It's got some empty spots. Ah, much better. Okay, so let's go for that on this left side. See if I got it okay. All right, so For a True Friend, then what I did is I took just some Stampin' Blends in. I'll tell you the colors that I used because I'm not going to take the time to color it right now on camera. So I used a little bit of So Saffron or Daffodil Delight on the yellow, a little bit of Calypso Coral on the centers, some Garden Green, maybe a little bit of Mossy Meadow in there just to darken it up, and then a teeny bit of Flirty Flamingo. So just to add a little bit of color to those images. All right, and then this piece is going to get mounted on here like so. And add our little dragonflies flying through the garden. Super cute. All right, let me show you how to do the inside of the card so that you understand how to do the easel. So what I'm going to do is take the other words from that same Dragonfly Garden stamp set. This one says, "Thank you for your kindness." Again, I'm going to check my work here on my scratch paper just because I know that that black ink pad is running a little inkier on one side than on the other. And give this, actually even stamping this doesn't matter too much because we're going to punch it out. So whether it's quite straight or not doesn't matter a whole lot. Now I'm using the Timeless Label Punch to punch this out, which I think is funny because it was called Timeless Label, but it retired. So apparently it wasn't timeless. It was a real favorite, and so I'll probably continue to use it. But the Label Me Pretty punch is almost the same shape. It's current. If you don't have this punch, you can certainly get the Label Me Pretty punch and it will work just lovely. But Timeless Label has run out of time. So I'm going to punch that guy out and reach for the little butterflies and a Bumblebee ink pad. Sorry about that, just out of reach. And just aiming for this little space up here in the corner. And also maybe a little bit down here, just to dress it up a teeny bit, like so. I like it. Okay, so let me show you how to put this together. I have a piece of designer series paper here somewhere. Ha ha ha, right here. All right, and this is gonna go on the inside here. I have cut this. All right, so it's exactly the width of the card. So this is 5.5, and it is 1 inch by 5.5. So that's gonna go there. The reason I checked it, especially on this 6x6 designer paper, sometimes I'll just leave it long, glue it on, and then trim the ends off. But this one was probably a piece pre-cut for Stamp Club, so it's already exactly the size we need. 1 inch by 5.5 inches. Little bit of liquid glue. And I'm gonna put this in here, line up my edges. I'm eyeballing this margin here. This also is where your grid paper can come in very handy. Line it up, and this will, see, I can see that this is not quite straight. I need to nudge that up a little bit, and that is super helpful. Okay, so once you have your words or your die cut or punched image, whatever you're going to use for the inside here of your easel card, you need to pop it up with some dimensionals. So 3 will work just fine on this. And this is going to go right here in the middle of my designer paper strip. Eyeballed, not measured. And now you can see how the card will fold nice and flat for mailing. It's a typical size card that's going to fit in your normal envelope. And this will pop up and sit like an easel like that. Wait, let me tell you one super important thing before you go gluing this together, since I did not glue mine. When you have this front piece, and you are ready to attach it to the card, be super mindful that you only add adhesive to the very bottom, because you want the top part to be free so that the easel part can stick up. If you get in a hurry and you glue this whole card front down, this won't be able to bend right here. So just make sure that you apply your liquid glue or your tear and tape only to the bottom of this panel and attach it. And then you will make out just fine. All right, let me show you the third and final project that we made at Stamp Club in May. Oh, you know, on this one, I added that cute little ladybug too. The ladybugs retired, but there are some bumblebee trinkets that are available, little embellishments that are available in the current catalog. Okay, so the third project is a little tent box. I cased a project that I saw another demonstrator do online. Casing, C-A-S-E, case stands for copy and share everything. And you know that we crafters do that a lot. It's quite a form of compliment. If you ever make something and somebody copies it, you know that they loved it. So I cased this little tent box, and for our little tutorial today, I'm going to do a little different one. So let me show you both, and then I will show you how to make the box. Okay. So the one that we made at Stamp Club was this box. And there were a couple different versions of different colors. Some had this designer paper. It's all from the Snail Mail suite. The Snailed It stamps, which I'm totally still in love with. They are going to retire at the end of June. I'll be very sad to see them go. I will probably keep using them this year. We did some with a Daffodil Delight box. We did some with Real Red, some with Bermuda Bay. It just depended on which packet you got. So this was the project that I copied. And right now I'm going to show you how to do one. And let's do a different version. So I have cut a piece of Poppy Parade cardstock. And this is 11 inches long by 4 inches. So the nice thing about this little tent box is you can get 2 of them out of one sheet of 8.5 by 11 cardstock. So this is 11 inches by 4 inches. I'm going to grab my scoring tool and do a little bit of scoring on this so that we can do easy folds. All right, so place it in your Simply Scored tool in the landscape position, and you're going to score at 3.5, 5 1/4, 8 3/4, and at 10.5. Now, before you remove your paper and before we turn it, we're going to make 2 little marks. One mark at 4 3/8, and by mark, I'm just going to use my stylus to put a little dent in the paper, in the cardstock there. So that one's at 4 3/8, and the second little mark that you're going to make is at 9 5/8. So just make that little mark. Now, take your cardstock, we're going to turn it portrait, but we want those 2 little tick marks that we made to go on the left side. All right, so let me show you that again. We've scored on the landscape side. We made a tick mark at 4 3/8 and 9 5/8. Now take those tick marks and put them on the left side of your Simply Scored. This is now in portrait position. And then we're just going to score at 2 3/4, which is not my marking here. So listen to what I'm saying. Don't look here. This last score line is at 2 3/4. Like so. Okay, now you're gonna grab a straight edge of some sort. I have this cute little metal ruler that I use all the time. I actually got this one and a full-size metal ruler on Amazon quite some time ago, and they have been my favorite straight edges to use. What we're going to do is make diagonal score lines in here using that mark as the center and using these corners. All right, so we're going to do the same thing in this area and this area. So the easiest way that I've found to do this without your straight edge and your stylus moving all over the place is to lay your stylus down right in the corner, okay? Hold it there. Take your straight edge or your ruler, lay it up against it, and then just drag the other edge down until you get to your tick mark. And then you can draw your score line. So I'm going to do that the same way on this side. Drop your stylus right on the corner first. Then bring in your straight edge to the stylus, get the bottom edge lined up at that tick mark, and draw your score line. If you try to line your straight edge corner to here, this has slid now and you got to push it back up to the corner, and now that moved. It seems to be very wonky. So that's why I like the method of drop your stylus down first, straight edge, then you only have one end of your ruler or your straight edge to have to line up. I like it. All right, one last time for our final. Now you can see those little score lines inside those quadrants, okay? So grab a bone folder real quick and fold everything so it's nice and pliable. I need a little space. All right, there we go. I've got a couple times this way. Again, this is Poppy Parade, the one we made at Club. Most of you either had a Real Red card box base or Daffodil Delight, maybe some Bermuda Bay even. They all looked good. Whatever we went with, the snail paper looked good. And then these little triangle extra score lines that you made, just bend them a teeny bit. They are not going to resist when we get to putting the box together, but it certainly helps to give them a teeny bit of a head start by just bending them a little bit like so. Okay, now we're going to take our scissors and trim this little rectangle in the corner. Is going to come completely out like so. And the lines going from the bottom, this is that 2 3/4 inch section that we scored at the very last part. We're just going to snip with your scissors up to the line that it's going to cross. You're familiar, you've made boxes with me before, so snip, snip, snip. And then on this little flap, this is going to be our tab that we attach the box together. Just take a little wedge out of both corners. That helps remove some of the bulk, makes the box go together a little bit easier. So grabbing some tear and tape, this is going to go on this little tab, which we love because it's super easy. You know right where to put it. And then the wonder of these boxes and cards that work this way, where you simply have to fold your project and it meets up perfectly. I love it. So get that sealed. All right. This is going to be the bottom of the box, like so. Let me show you where your adhesive goes so that you don't end up with a sticky part on the inside, because you won't want that. So I'm going to take a couple pieces of my tear and tape. All right. You have 2 small flaps. Those are going to go down. Those don't need any adhesive. You have 2 long rectangle flaps. One of them gets adhesive the whole length, and the other one is going to just get adhesive on the edges. It's maybe, I don't know, about 1 inch long, and I'll show you why. And don't ask me how I figured out that this was the best way to do it. When you put that one down first, you have a nice clean edge here. So the inside of your box is not going to be sticky. Now, depending on what you're going to put inside your treat box, you probably don't want it sticky down there. So that way you avoid this middle part, and you're going to be so happy you did. Then on this flap, we're going to go the whole length. So end to end with your tear and tape. I do recommend your tear and tape, or you could use Stampin' Seal Plus on this. Anytime I'm doing a 3D project, a box or a card that has lots of moving parts or whatever, you want to use a little bit stronger adhesive than our liquid glue or the normal Stampin' Seal. So grab one of your sturdier adhesives. All right, so I'm going to put the tab with the 2 pieces down first and follow that up with the tab that has the whole length of tear and tape. And then you want to stick it down. I like to grab my bone folder and just press it down in there, because it's kind of hard to get your fingers down in there. Okay, and then as I told you, these sides aren't really going to resist too much. You're just going to poke them in, and you see how nicely they just bend and fold with those triangle marks that we made. Nice, right? Okay, now we're going to take a piece of designer paper. This is from a retired pack. This is a great way to go back and use up a lot of your retired DSP. This was that cute strawberry paper that was actually a celebration gift. And on this piece, we're not going to score it or measure it or anything. You're going to start by wrapping it a little bit on the bottom of your tent box and just making a little crease mark like I'm doing. Then at the top, with my fingers, I'm going to hold the box closed, And I'm going to just wrap the designer paper around it like so and make a little crease. And then rolling it over. Now I'm going to the other edge. It's going to wrap down on the bottom. And I'm going to put a crease there. All right, so again, there was no measuring. You're just going to wrap it and kind of crease it as you go. Now, one thing that you want to be mindful of is we are only going to adhere the designer paper to itself. You don't want anything sticking to this box part or it won't be able to slide in and out. You'll have sealed it shut. So I'm going to put my tear and tape right here on my designer paper, and when I wrap it around, it's going to stick only to the other edge of the designer paper. So let's do that now. All right, and again, simple to do, just a strip across the bottom of your designer paper. Works so well. Woo. Nice save. Okay, and I'm going to peel that off so we're ready to stick it. And then just like I did from the beginning, I'm going to start with my little piece on the bottom, hold it in place, close the box, let that fold that we already made, just let it happen naturally. The nice thing about doing it this way is we have not made the designer paper piece so tight that the box isn't going to slide. It's snug, but it's not overly tight. And now I've got this wrapped down and my tear and tape is sealing paper to paper. And the box can slide freely, like so. So this is super fun to know that you can fit, obviously, little candies or treats in there. A gift card will also fit in there. We tried it out, tried and true. It's been tested. All right, so this is going to fit into my tent like so, and then it just needs some decorations. So what I've done ahead of time just to speed things up is I've used the Hey Birthday Chick and stamped the cute cupcake chicken, colored her a little bit with some Stampin' blends and cut it out with the coordinating die. So she's going to get attached to the front here of my project. And you know what? I could use the liquid glue, but I'm actually just going to use a couple pieces of my score tape. It'll be less messy for me, and I've already just got it right here, so I like it. All right, so let's put our birthday cupcake chick in place. Just like so, right on the edge, because I am kind of putting a big piece on here. And then from the same Hey Birthday Chick, I stamped Let's Celebrate You, punched it out with a circle punch, which, yes, boohoo, cry me a river, all of the circle punches have been retired, but we have other ways to get your circles through dies and so forth. But I just punched this out with a circle punch, and I'm going to add it with a little bit of liquid glue to a Poppy Parade circle. This was from Stitched Shapes, which also retired, but there are many new options in the catalog to get a stitched type shape. There are rectangles, there are sets with other circles and squares. I think you'll find a super good replacement before long. If you already have stitched shapes, great. Just pull that out and cut a circle out of Poppy Parade. And then this is going to get tucked right behind her hair. And I'm also going to use, I've already got some tear and tape pre-cut here, so I'm just going to use that on the back of my circle. And as soon as I put this on my tent box, I'll pull in the other ones so you can see the ones that we actually made at Club with the snail dies and snail stamps. Okay, but this gives you a whole nother project idea. Obviously, you could make these tent boxes in any style, any theme, any occasion that works for you. So there's that one, and here was the snail one that we did at Stamp Club. And the one thing that I'm thinking back, I'm not sure I told you the size of this paper. It will be written in the description below. But this designer paper for your tint box is 3 inches by 8 inches. So in review, your cardstock is 4 by 11 and the designer paper to wrap around it is 3 by 8. So I hope you love this. I hope you love all 3 projects. And I want to remind you of a couple of things. Right now, there is a current promotion for $99. You can join Stampin' Up and receive $155 worth of product. Now that is an amazing deal. And even if you find yourself saying, I don't know if I want to be a demonstrator, I don't know if I want to do anything besides continue crafting, that's fine. You should still sign up and get the load of product, $155 worth of product for only $99, and see where it takes you. And in the event that you don't end up doing anything technically as a demonstrator, that's fine. You'll just go back to being a wonderful, loyal customer of mine. I would love to help you do that. And as always, with all kinds of things, you can get more information at stampwithjuliebaum.com. If you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator that you order through, I would love it if you would place an order through my stamp store. And when you do so, you'll get to the checkout box. And if you'll just use this host code, which is current now through the end of May, that would be greatly appreciated. So I hope that you enjoyed our projects. I hope you'll visit my website. Thank you for watching this video on YouTube, and I'll see you next time.